Good evening and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. We are back on a Tuesday night. I'm sorry, I know we were promised Sundays and Thursdays, and then we also scheduled a show for last night, but just family traveling back from Bournemouth. Absolutely gutted from the result, while also slightly inebriated still from the weekend's antics. So it meant that we're doing this on a Tuesday, but Kev, George, obviously we've had a little bit of time to digest the result after all the positivity of pre-season. But good to have you boys on board. How are you both doing?
Great, thanks, mate. Great, thanks. Bit hot.
Yeah, and I hear that you've smashed it at the football tonight.
Oh, mate, it was like chalk and cheese for the last time I played football. Could nick his ass with a banjo. I was like Villa last time. I was like Haaland this week. I'm actually, maybe me answer that question again. How am I doing? I'm still really, really pissed off about Saturday, if I'm honest. If I'm really honest, like I'm having moments during the day when I'm thinking I'm not happy about something, and it's the Villa. So I'm hot. I play well at football, but I'm really pissed off about what happened the weekend.
Yeah, George, and you're usually the rational thinker of the podcast. How are you feeling today, mate?
Yeah, first of all, nice to see you boys. How you doing and everything? Glad you. Maybe we should sign you up, Kev, if you've had such a stormer. What do you reckon?
It must be that kit.
I used to play football in that once upon a time. Yeah, 2015 that one. Yeah.
Yeah, relegation season. We beat
Bournemouth. Yeah, great memories.
Beat Bournemouth in this kit. Remember, I thought maybe like I can psych it out. They beat us. Maybe we don't get relegated. I take that.
Yeah, sorry. As your question, being the rational, I wasn't rational Saturday, mate. I was absolutely raging. I mean, talk about being sort of fed the dream, and then we didn't get what we didn't get what was promised at all, did we? And it was a thoroughly disappointing day. And yeah, I'm like you, Kev. I've still got the raving up about it as well.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the sort of our brief thoughts on the game, I know obviously the other podcast guys have done fantastic jobs in breaking down the game and all of the issues across it. But we'll put our 2 pence in. But just before that, bit of housekeeping. Our winner of the competition hasn't yet come forward. So we need just bear with me while I get his details. But yeah, we will. I think. What do you think, lads? If we give it another week before our competition winner comes forward, before we draw it again, Liam, wherever you are, mate, Liam Crosby, you are the winner of our shirt competition from our subscribers. If we give you till we'll do a show Thursday for the preview, but if we give you to our match reaction show either Sunday or Monday, please come forward, mate, just so you can we can get your size and get your address for where you want the kit where you want your Villa top sent out, just so we can make sure you get the best chance to receive your prize. Yeah, I'll mention it at the end of the show as well, but please Liam, get in touch, either Twitter DM, Instagram, or comment on the show on YouTube, and we can get in touch with you, mate. So Saturday, where do we start, lads? Where do we start? Bournemouth 2, Aston Villa 0. Starting lineup. Kev, what were your thoughts on the team that started? I mean, maybe surprises. Ings up front, Konsa in next to Diego Carlos. Was that a surprise to you?
Well, I think I said in the last pod, don't want to sort of pat myself back too much, but I said I thought it should be. I thought it would be Konsa, but I thought it should have been Chambers probably. And there was an argument for Mings. I think in terms of the lineup, like Captain Hindsight, all I'm seeing everywhere is I can't believe Stevie G has left out Douglas Luiz. We need someone to get the midfield ticking. I can't believe Mings against the size of Bournemouth centre half has been left out. And I can't believe Watkins, you need someone to get in behind and run the lines. And yet the 3 most vilified players in our team are Douglas Luiz, Tyrone Mings, and Ollie Watkins, you could argue. So you can't do right for doing wrong sometimes. Although I do think in that game, that's certainly the height of Bournemouth, as we saw. Mings would have been the ideal solution. However, I'm not convinced he's fit. So it might be a situation where Gerrard's trying to make a bit of a point by saying, get ready for the game. And actually, he's not even fit to play. I was probably surprised Louise didn't play. And Ings and Watkins, I wasn't too bothered that Ings was playing. If he gets the ball, I think I don't mind, but I do think more and more I watch it, I don't think he can play in the middle front man in a front three, or lone striker role. So I wasn't too disappointed when I saw the team. Kamara's in, Carlos is in, Coutinho's in, but literally, I'm now getting back to watch the stream. I had on, and all of a sudden, I'm just a little bit late for it. I've got on my drive at 1 minute past 3. So I've got in the house, put my keys in the door. Jesus Christ, 1-0 down.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I was at the game, George, and we obviously had a lot of optimism going into the game. I saw the team that was named, maybe a little bit surprised at one or two of the names, but by all accounts, I mean, I obviously couldn't check Twitter or, couldn't check the social media of what was going on, but, people were pretty positive about, the team that was starting. And if we're meant to have a really good squad, or a squad that's, pushing for top 10, you shouldn't be arguing about, whether it's Watkins or Ings or Konsa at centre half, or, whoever in that midfield. We if the players are good enough, that team should have been good enough to beat Bournemouth.
Yeah, so we'd like to think. We've spent a lot of money over the last couple of years assembling this big squad, and like you say, you think you've got the quality and depth. But when I looked at the team, and the only thing that really stuck out to me was Coutinho starting. And I know it's Coutinho, but I think he proved last season that away from home, he's generally pretty ineffective. I mean, other than the Leeds game, I think when he played really well, I can barely remember him having another decent game on the road last year. And I'd have gone with Buendia for the work rate. But the thing that surprised me, and I think it might have caught a lot of people out, was the size and physicality of Bournemouth. Within 10 minutes, I think we were chatting on the WhatsApp, and I was like, they're a big old team, aren't they? And we know what happens when Villa play big old teams. So, Ings couldn't really put himself about. Coutinho's lightweight. Bailey, again, not the most physical. And I think we just, and like you just said there, with Mings not playing, I think we hoped Diego Carlos might be a bit more of a presence, but we just didn't assert ourselves into the game at all, really, and we just got bullied as we have done in previous occasions.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, straight away from the stands you could see, Lerma's a big unit. Lloyd Kelly's a big player. Obviously, then Solanke, Kiefer Moore. They had 6, I would say, at least 6 players bigger than our. We had two players that were over 6 foot in Carlos and Konsa, and Kamara, but again, Kamara's not particularly strong, and you could just see it straight away. And I'll talk about the first goal in a second, Kev, but from the moment, there was a moment in the first half where the ball was played long into Kiefer Moore, and he had hold of Konsa's shirt, and Konsa had hold of his. And rather than competing against Kiefer Moore, Konsa just threw his arms up and started whinging at the ref. And from that moment on, Kiefer Moore knew he'd won the war. And you just can't do that against those type of players. You can't be whinging to the ref when you're getting a little bit of manhandling. And like you said, George, it's the physical battle that you've got to win, particularly against these championship teams.
Scott Parker played us, didn't he? Let's be clear. He said, furrowing his brow and making it look like, he hasn't got a very good hand, and he had a real flush because, we were all so confident, but for good reason. We've really invested in our squad. The thing is, for me, when I think about this, I've even been using this analogy at work loads, when things are pretty good, but you're not quite sure it's as good as it could be in scenarios. But I've been using Villa as the analogy because I was like, I think I said it in the last pod again. Something doesn't feel quite right. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's all right. We've got Bournemouth away, newly promoted team, tons of injuries. Even their own manager's calling the squad out so he can get some funds from the chairman. Depleted in defence should be easy. And I mean, for me, it's. You'd expect at times to get a bad result in football. Football is football, right? Goes without saying, right? But to have a situation where it was literally like we were playing, we were the team that were weight leagues below, but we play quite a nice, attractive possession football. You know, imagine a nice conference. What they called now, National League, right? National League team that kick it around the back, kick it around midfield, not incisive, no pace, no power, and we're playing this big team in Bournemouth. We didn't do anything. Not a thing. I was watching it thinking, at least second half will be different. It was just, I mean, you could argue like it was hot. These professional footballers, it was warm. Oh, you know, it's a tight ground, the vitality. Can you see Man City, Liverpool leagues above? Can you see West Ham, Leicester going there and not even looking like they're going to score, having the XG that we had in that game? I mean,
just cruising around at holiday pace, weren't they?
It was like, oh, we're going to get back in this game at some point. We're going to get back in this game at some point. And then before you know it, it's like 80 minutes and you're 2-0 down. But yeah, I mean, the preparation, George, in terms, I know, I think it's the Holy Trinity podcast that did a really good analysis of it. So if you do get a chance, watch that on YouTube. And when you can see the goal after 1 minute and 50 seconds, particularly off a corner, there has to be something that needs to be looked at in terms of the preparation of the players. You know, were they in the right frame of mind? Were they wound up for the game? Were they aware of the seriousness of it? Was it Kamara and Carlos or whoever was playing in their first game, you know, maybe caught as rabbit in the headlights? I'm not sure, but did they get the conversations told to them at the start? But you know, that kind of setup to concede a goal like that, you know, it was just, you know, a bit of a catalogue of errors, you know, a free header missed, Ramsey just putting it out needlessly for a corner. We saw the physical size of those players. Why are you conceding the corner specifically after 2 minutes of the game? It just seemed like a whole catalogue of little errors that caused that moment, George. I mean, what would your thoughts be on that sort of preparation point to get ready for that first game of the season?
Well, it's just ridiculous, really. I mean, talk about having the blueprint already. Did they? None of them watched. Half of them team must have played in last season's opening game at Watford. To me, the whole game just reminded me of that game. You know, newly promoted side, away from home. You know, all you got to do, you want to keep the crowd quiet, right? They're all excited about being promoted again. Do not concede in the first 10, 15 minutes at all costs. Well, I think like the Watford goal was quite early. We were 2 down, I think, by half time. This one, again, straight away, 2 minutes in, you're 1-0 down. Everyone knows that we've got a problem when we concede the first goal. So straight away, half that team must be thinking, Jesus, we're 1-0 down. We all know what happens now.
Particularly against a team like Bournemouth, who are just going to, you know, that's just manna from heaven, scoring a goal after 2 minutes with a team the size of them.
Yeah.
They've got no obligation to attack. They could just stay back.
And it sucked the life out of us. I mean, it was literally like, you've waited all year for Christmas Day, right? Santa comes down the chimney, shags your missus, breaks your TV, fucks off, doesn't leave any presents. I mean,
I'll tell you what, it's bang on, mate, to be fair. That is bang on.
The anticipation we had for this game, based on the investment, the funding, the narrative that we've got this style of football and Gerrard needs a pre-season, the anticipation we had. Look, I don't mind that we conceded an early goal. You can talk about preparation, but preparation can happen to anybody and you can get hit by
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
What was that game we played? I'm not comparing us to Man City, but didn't we play Man City? Was it last season when we scored? McGinn scored early doors, or I don't remember when it was. And they ended up winning the game 2-1. I think it was that dodgy Rodri goal. But I think we scored in the first minute. And like other teams, like I look at this. If you see a boxing match, sometimes the boxer that's fancied will get hit with a decent shot by the boxer that's not fancied. That's not always the end of the fight. No. Like you expect them to come back. And I thought, well, if you're a quality team in the Premier League, a top 10, even top 15 team, maybe away from home, you know, a team finishing just above relegation zone, might get beat by Bournemouth. You've got aspirations for top 10 and you go a goal down. Then you dust yourself down, you get back into the game, you get back on level terms, and then you go away with the second half. Yeah. We, as a team, cannot break down deep blocks. You cannot break down. I mean, if I was managing Villa as an opposition manager, the first thing I'd do, I'd get one of my players to get sent off. I know we wouldn't lose the game. You know, or I'd just put everybody back and I'd just try and catch them on the counter. Because Villa have not got they've got the players. What's the reason they can't do it? Like, Is it the runs? Is it the pace? Is it the power? Is it the intensity and the energy? We've got the players to unpick the locks, but we weren't doing anything.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a combination of all those things, and we'll talk about, like, we've done a little bit of a 5-point plan that we can discuss in a second about what we think Villa, or Gerrard could do, moving forwards, particularly into Saturday. But from the game from being in the stands, I think you were right in what you're saying, Kev. It just looks like there's something not quite right. There's just something there that's either like one of the two of the players maybe not trusting each other with the ball, maybe one or two of them not on the same wavelength. It's like looking like they're waiting for someone to say something or do something. We're meant to have players like, the likes of Coutinho or Bailey or Cash or Digne or Ramsey who can run with the ball and take it past players. Not one of them did one bit of taking it past anybody. But also there's that little bit of balance there with Ings up front. It's not sticking with him. Like, it's just impossible for him to hold the ball up. Like, that's just, one, it's not his game, but two, playing against a team like Bournemouth, it's just never going to happen. We almost needed a role reversal and put Kiefer Moore up top for us, and that would have brought our ball players into the game. And I'm sick of saying it now. I'm just sick of saying it. Like, it's blatantly obvious to see that. Coutinho and Buendia and Ramsey are going to work, and Bailey are going to work better with a target man up front. It's just so obvious. It's plain to see. But whatever happens. But I will ask a question on that. I know we're just going off on a little tangent here, but I know Gerrard's talked a lot in the he's a bit spiky after the game. No surprises there. I would have been, but he's talked about needing reinforcements in the squad, needing this number 8. He keeps talking about it, needing more presence in the team. Is there a slight issue between him and Johan Lange under the surface here?
I don't really know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I don't see why Lange wouldn't want to. I mean, his remit is to, he's the transfer linchpin, isn't he? Like, it's a kingpin basically. So he's going to get rid of players we don't want for the squad and bring good players in. I don't think he's not in control of the budget, is he? We've told we've got the funds. I mean, we've made 135 million quid on Chukwuemeka, Target, and Grealish.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that is he getting the players that Gerrard? Is he getting the players that Gerrard wants?
Well,
is Gerrard giving him the list and then he's saying, I can't get him, I can get him? Like, and is Gerrard the type of person a type of manager that trusts someone else to make signings for him?
That is a question. And I'll tell you what, I've caught a couple of sort of reviews of the game for a couple of different podcast places, and I'm seeing a few people saying it's not all about making the signing. You can't keep making signings. You got to work what you got. I clearly disagree with that point. I'm so strong on that because it's obvious we are missing a number 8, and it's obvious we're missing, I think, a big front man based on what we can see in the team. Now, I'd probably accept not having a big front man brought in and I mean, from a presence perspective, they don't need to be 6'6" just to be able to hold the ball and to link play. But it's you're crying out for it, and the answer is to make reinforcements, transfer reinforcements, if what you've got isn't working. If you look at that team from the defence forward, I'm happy with the defence and the goalkeeper. Although I will say, like Cash and Digne, Cash was our player of the year, wasn't he? And Digne was second half of the year really good. But their distribution was fucking horrendous at the weekend. I mean, terrible. But everything I'm generally happy with that. Everything in front of them, from a physicality perspective, if you were coming up against Ramsey, McGinn, Coutinho, Buendia, Bailey, Ings, you ain't bothered, are you, really? You're not going to be concerned about it at all. And
especially if you drop deep.
Out of those players, who's got pace? Bailey
only one.
So basically, what you're going to do, you're not going to be winning loads of headers in the box because you've not got anyone in there. You're putting incisive balls through to people, but you've got no one making the runs. I mean, Watkins will make the runs, but his finish is not great. I don't know. It feels like something is missing, and they need to do something about it. If they don't, and we have some bad results. Look, it might all turn out, don't we? But I'm honestly worried if we have a bad result on Saturday at home, I think the fans are going to turn already. And that says, why is that? Is that because Villa fans are fickle, as David O'Leary said? Or is it because the expectation's been set so high? We're expecting steak and chips. and we've got beans on toast.
I think
Like,
I think it's a combination of that. I think we are definitely fickle fans. I will say that 100%. I think we have a little bit of an entitlement to think that we're better than what we are. But I do think that some of that is fueled by the social media, the kind of words that come through from the management and from Christian Perslow and the signings that we're making and the hype around them. It all fuels it, and especially when you get beaten by a team that's just come up and their manager's saying that they're struggling to put a team together. It all combines to it. Just finishing off on the game, lads, before we go on to the points I wanted to raise, is the second goal. Again, just poor from set pieces, just lackluster. Just how you leave Kiefer Moore with a free header in the box. Just utter criminal at the back, George. I mean, I can't. I'm lost for words, really, to be honest with that.
Yeah, the second one again, a piss poor goal to concede. I don't know whether you can blame it on the lack of communication between Konza and Carlos. Obviously, a new partnership, but it's just general awareness. Like you say, he's the biggest player on the pitch by a mile, and he stood on his own. The second that ball comes over, you have a look. You can kind of see what's going to happen, can't you? Literally straight over. He gets up, heads it straight over into the same direction as it come from.
Yeah.
2-0, game over. And it's like, if we can fucking see that, excuse my language, we can see that sat at home. What are the players doing? It's just if they're fast asleep, just on the beach.
They've at least
it's just a rude awakening for us.
They've at least got to make it difficult for him. He might win the header, but try and put him off the header, jump with him, like do something.
It was just complete ball watching. It was like Sunday League football, like when the goal is or the guy on the side saying you're ball watching. It was just like that, exactly like that. I know Aaron joining us. Thanks so much, Aaron. He's not very happy. If we lose against Everton on Saturday, I think we might see him running on the pitch. So
calm down, Aaron, son. He'll be all right.
So look out for Aaron on Saturday if we go 1-0 down, lads. Kev, I just wanted to touch on this, and I think you mentioned it in your little rant before, but just the lack of creativity, mate. I mean, we had a piss poor shot from Danny Ings in the first half, and then a reasonable shot from Boubacar Kamara that went wide. But apart from that, that was about it all game, and we could have played there for the next 10 years and we wouldn't have scored.
Yeah, I was thinking that game could have been like, when you're a kid and you play football on a computer for like 15 hours, and like we could have done it for 15 hours, and I don't think we would have got anywhere near the goal. It's staggering. I find it amazing how like we are totally inept. But you know what? The thing is this. Let's be clear. The results were positive pre-season, but we weren't cutting teams open, Walsall aside. And even then, I thought we might have had more chances against Walsall. But we weren't cutting teams open in any of the games. There was penalties. There was, obviously a couple of chances created. But it's not like we can say we're creating chance after chance after chance and we're just not putting it away. You get those teams sometimes, keep creating chances. We need to get a striker who are creating the chances. Well, I think sometimes our strikers are possibly given a bit of a hard time in terms of feedback because, Watkins fine misses a few chances, but I think in another team, Watkins and Ings would do better. I personally think.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Chris, thanks for joining us, mate. He said I wouldn't have allowed, or me as in, wouldn't have allowed the kids I coach to ball watch like that. I know I wouldn't, mate. I was saying at half time, I'd have been smashing the board. I'd have been throwing a few teacups around and getting in a few people's faces as well at half time. If after watching that, after the evidence of that first half, they wouldn't have wanted to come in the dressing room with me, which is one of the things that I was hoping with Steven Gerrard. Like I was used to think of like Sheffield United, particularly in that first season. If they had a bad first half, I thought that those players are not going to want to go in and face Chris Wilder. And I thought, after with someone like Steven Gerrard, that's what he's there for. Like that's him in a nutshell. You have a bad first half, he's going to let you know about it. And obviously we didn't see any real sort of reaction in that second half. So yeah, a little bit disappointing. But lads, let's just quickly go on to actually before we go on to the 5-point plan. Anyone new watching, thank you so much for watching. Please give us a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel. We're very close to 170 subscribers now, and incidentally, that means we're very close to 200. So please, drop us please drop us a like. Please subscribe to the channel and keep your comments coming. As Chris says there, he was expecting Stevie Gerrard to give the players a bollocking. He may well have done. I don't know, but looking at that reaction, there didn't seem to be too much of one in the second half. One player that did have a little bit of a reaction second half and did okay in his first game was Boubakar Kamara. But my first point on him was, particularly in the first half. Actually, let me just take the banner out there. In the first half, I felt he was just far too deep, and I don't know if this was a point where he was in his first game for the club, in the first league game, whether he was wanting to play it a little bit safe. Some players want to keep their stats and not look like they're making bad passes, but for me, it just looked like he was taking the ball off one of the centre halves and then just giving it to the other centre half, which is a complete waste of a pass. And then what that meant is the gap between him and McGinn and Ramsey was just far, far too big. So when he's picking up the ball, he can't give a pass to one of those in midfield. He's wasted a pass from one of the centre halves. The only option he's got is to give it to the other centre half, which is a complete waste of a pass, and it leads to the slowing down of play. If he'd have been 10 yards further forward, that ball from the centre half into him then means he can receive it on the half turn, and we're starting the attack, which is what, for me, Kamara was meant to be put into the team for. Just your thoughts on that, lads, in terms of, that position of that number 6, which is meant to be his specialism. For me, just particularly in that first half, he was just far, far, far too deep, leaving a huge gap in midfield for where we couldn't then get the ball to McGinn, Ramsey, and then, coincidentally then Buendia, Coutinho and Bailey.
I just wonder whether that might have been a lack of confidence from the bad start we had, because he did he was probably the pick of the bunch. Not that there was a lot to pick from, but as you said, when he got it, he did look all right, didn't he? He wasn't misplacing passes or anything, but everything was so slow around him anyway. From the wings, from the fullbacks, everything we did was just ponderous and slow. And I think he just kind of fell into that himself, and maybe he just sort of thought to himself, none of these boys fancy it today. I'm just going to look after myself and just try and play it safe and have a steady debut. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. But I think that Kev is he's that number 6 position. Again, this points to that expectation and that hype that you talked about. This guy's been hyped up as if every club around Europe wants him. Bruno goes in at Newcastle and is absolutely dominating it from that midfield position. We're expecting that from someone like Boubakar Kamara. And we're playing against Bournemouth, who's come up from the Championship. This should be a game where he absolutely dictates play. And for me, there was parts of the second half where he did better, but most of the game, he just played it totally safe and just got almost bullied out of the game.
Yeah, I think you can understand a player potentially taking it safe. He's first game in the Premier League. Maybe he doesn't want to make too many mistakes, although you'd hope he backs himself. He's a French international. He's highly sought after individual. But the problem we've got is we can't carry players. You get other teams. If a player has a bad day in another team, other players can take over of it. If you've got a situation where McGinn, I was very disappointed in McGinn. His first game as captain in a proper game and did not perform very well. Ramsey was pretty much non-existent. You've got Kamara's got there his midfield, teammates in the midfield, and what's he going to do? And look, he's clearly a good player, clearly highly rated, clearly good at distributing the ball. But he's not physical. He's not physically imposing play. I think he'll get stuck in, but you'll see a situation this season where if he keeps being him and Ramsey and McGinn, we'll get dominated in midfield.
Again.
Yeah, well, part of that, captaincy with McGinn is to maybe tell someone like Kamara, look, play further up the pitch, or one of the two centre halves. Conte's never shy him coming forwards to have a go at players. Tell him to get off their toes, move out of our way. We can play that pass. We can play that pass into you, but it needs to be, like I say, it needs to be 10 yards further forward. It doesn't need to be you standing next to us, because no one was getting forward. you only drop into there if one of the other midfielders is going to drop in, receive the ball on the half turn, and then you've got your spin, and you've got your fullbacks pushing on forward, or you've got Bailey or Coutinho to look at, mainly Bailey on a long ball, Coutinho dropping into the pocket, and then you give him the ball to feet. But none of that was happening. Nothing like that was happening, and that's where that position, that number 6, kind of starts that all off. So, yeah, I would hope that he's kind of learnt a little bit. And as I said, there was a little bit more intent from him second half. But in terms of pushing forward for Saturday, he really needs to kind of press forward, push us forward a little bit more, and play those passes into feet. If he's receiving the ball into the half turn, then someone like Danny Ings can come into play, because he might be able to receive it into his feet a little bit deeper. But if he's getting the ball off the centre halves, that's just a long ball, and Ings is just completely wasted. So yeah, I had an argument with a guy in the crowd about it anyway, because he was telling me that Steven Gerrard would have told him to do it, and I was like, well, there's no way Steven Gerrard had told him to just take the ball off the centre half and pass it to the other one. But anyway, it's all about opinions. It's all about opinions. Second one is Emi Buendia. So start Buendia with Coutinho as the sub option. Kev?
So this might not be popular with some Villa fans, right? But I like Buendia. I think he's industrious. I think he's creative, but I don't think he is this superhero everyone thinks he's going to be if he starts playing games. I don't think he showed that last season particularly. I know he was in and out of the team a bit, but it's not like he plays and it's like, oh my God, we have to have this guy starting. I think he's a really good player. I'd like to see them both playing in the team together. If you have those two in the team together, you need way more physicality than we've got right now, because they're both small. And really, you got 29-year-old Philippe Coutinho. If that's going to be your creative number 10 option, then is Buendia all of a sudden going to be a better answer to that? I don't think he's the messiah that some people are talking about. And just like I said, at the start of the pod, if we'd have played that team that we probably should have played, and we'd lost to Bournemouth, and people are saying, why the hell is he still persisting with Watkins, who can't score, with Mings, who's a liability, and with Douglas Luiz, who doesn't do anything in midfield? That is exactly what you would have heard on Villa Twitter.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't disagree with that. I wouldn't say, like, I think a lot of the responsibility has to go on to the players. Me personally, that team should have been able to beat Bournemouth. But for me, the Buendia situation is, like, I understand potentially how he's got it this way around. You say Coutinho's maybe the better player. Start with him, and then Emi Buendia comes on, while the defense is tired and runs them ragged. But maybe that balance is, you get Emi Buendia with his industrious, with his speed. He wants to play quickly. He wants to do things, and then you bring, then after they've kind of coped with Emi, then you're like, bloody hell, Coutinho's coming on now. George, your thoughts on that, or are you kind of similar with Kev? It doesn't really make too much difference, or maybe even both of them playing together.
Well, we tried that a few times last year, didn't we? And we looked too lightweight for me. I think on the occasion it worked, but I kind of like the idea of playing Coutinho in the home games and Buendia away from home, when we were sort of up against it a bit more, with the crowd up against you. And Buendia is not the most physical and not the most big, but at least he does have a go, doesn't he?
Good challenging, yeah.
He has a good go. Whereas Coutinho is not really like that. Coutinho is more of your entertain the home fans, luxury player. Is going to turn it on every now and again. And I found all last year, most of his, as I said earlier, most of his good performances were at Villa Park. And if you're doing, like, sort of, you're playing them each one at home, one away, you're kind of keeping Coutinho fit, because I'm sure he'll break down playing all the games. And you're keeping Buendia a bit happier. We've spent a lot of money on him, and I'm sure he's not expecting to be sitting on the bench every week.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit on Gerrard in a second. The next point on this one is, don't play Ings as a lone front man. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I think that's irrefutable. I don't think he's worked for us. I mean, I can't say for certain. I've gone through his entire career history and seen where he's done it at other clubs. But from my knowledge, I think when he's played whether it's with Che Adams type player, at Southampton. Obviously, when it's been playing at Burnley, we probably was it like that Ashley Barnes, etc. Whoever it was, I can't remember. But I always think he's played well with another player to feed off. He's that kind of instinctive striker. We need to be played. You saw elements of it last season with some of his goals. I always remember I almost thought it was classic Danny Ings, which was the goal at Burnley away when I think Buendia did a nice little turn, just fed it behind the defence.
Yeah, good goal that was.
Corner. And I think because his finishing's been a bit off, actually, since he's been with us, he probably might have had a couple more on his usual form. But that's the kind of player he is. He's a clever player. He takes a touch past someone in the box, finishes a corner, bang, goal. He's not hold it up. He's not headers in the box. It's just not his game.
Mm. Is this part of the stuff we've been talking about, George, with regards to the balance? Because in theory, Watkins and Ings could and maybe should work, but then you mean sacrificing, Leon Bailey, Buendia, Coutinho, one or two others, and you've got to like take out too many elements to put, Watkins and Ings up top, and then you lose whatever you're gaining by, the two wide men. You're losing out with not playing the two up front that might work together.
Yeah, that's it, and that all comes down to us having a really weak ass midfield that can't hold their own in games. Bar Vardy, outside the top six, no one scored the amount of goals that Ings has scored over the last 4 or 5 years. But for some reason, we can't seem to get him to do anything for us because we're obviously not creating the chances for him, or we're not playing the style of football that suits him. I mean, I don't think he's ever gone any more than 2 or 3 games in a row playing or scoring. So, really, I don't think we really know what Danny Ings, what we need to be doing for him. And like you said, Kev, I thought he was a finisher, and I still think he is a finisher. But he missed a lot last year, as did Watkins. And you sort of think, if he's not a poacher or a penalty box striker, he's no good in the air. He's not physical. You're thinking, well, what is Danny Ings? So, I say go back to watching them videos of Southampton and see what they did, because the guy's scored goals everywhere he's been. He's a quality striker, so there's got to be something there, and it's up to us to sort it out and get the best out of him.
And if you're not creating enough chances, generally, then you need to finish more of your chances you're getting if you're creating less chances, and that's not something that's happened at the moment. And another thing as well, just to add to this, I was going to say with the whole the output of Ings and Watkins, it's massively highlighted because we do not get enough goals from midfield. It's I yearn for the days of a 10-goal haul for Anwar El Ghazi. I know half of them are penalties, but still, the difference that makes. You look at Ramsey got 6, which was good for a breakthrough season. Did McGinn get 3 last year? Coutinho obviously got a few when he came playing that, attacking midfielder role, but we don't. We haven't got that reliability. We don't get enough goals from our centre backs. Fullback. Okay, Cash got 3 or 4, but it's not like we're spreading the goals around massively to make up for it. That is a worry. It's a real worry.
Yeah. Just before going to our final point, Ian has said there, I think with Gerrard's system, there's a huge important placed on the output of the fullbacks. If you were to look at Liverpool, who play a similar system, their fullbacks create a ton of chances. Against Bournemouth, our fullbacks were very poor in that regard. And you commented on that, Kev, about just the lack of quality of delivery from the fullbacks. With the likes of what Bailey and Ings up front and Coutinho, we haven't got a lot of height, and you would have thought that they would maybe get on the overlap against the with our wide players and put low crosses in, or if it is a whipped ball in front of the defenders, but they just kept looping them in. I mean, I don't really know what was the thought process with our fullbacks on Saturday.
It was like, again, I talked about this non-league analogy earlier, but it was like a non-league team who are just lumping it into the box, hoping to get a goal back in an FA Cup tie. I mean, it was
Steve Bruce all over again. That's what it was.
It was terrible, and you're absolutely right, Rich. Like cutbacks, play. If you're going to go wide, play a cutback. Play a cutback at the edge of the box. I just, or play a little pass inside, do a little give and go, try and create something. Or it sounds crazy. Commit a defender, run towards a defender. They might foul you. You might get past them. If you get past them, you've made a bit of progression up the pitch. This was the thing I'll say as well on this, and this might be incorrect. You might be able to show me running stats and tell me I'm wrong, but it feels really like it's lacking a lot of urgency.
Yeah, 100%.
The moving of the ball, the distribution, the impetus to get the ball forward.
Absolutely, there was, and I think that I don't know whether I couldn't really see too much of Gerrard, like really geeing the players up, but I don't know whether some of that has to come from the pitch. And I know we talked about Mings not playing it and what have you. And I don't want to dwell on that, but it did look a real lack of someone really sort of hammering home to players to sort of get into tackles, or if someone did actually manage to put a big tackle in, like getting onto them and saying well done or whatever. There just didn't seem to be that. And if McGinn is going to be the captain that we want him to be or whatever, he's got to learn to to put his voice out there to make sure that he's kind of stepping up, and then obviously other players will then chip in around him. But he's been given the captain's armband. It's got to come from him initially, in terms of that example.
Yeah, I would say as well, Gerrard himself is not. I'd see him sometimes on the side of the pitch and think, come on, like have a little word, shout, like do what you were doing as a captain at Liverpool or for England. But I've seen him say in an interview that it's not the kind of management style he's got. So it looks like he's sat there a bit peed off at the side of the pitch. I'm hoping he's done his talking in the dressing room, and he's, you should be able to leave it to your senior players. Let's not forget, you've got a captain that he's not Scotland's full-time captain, but he's vice captain and he captains Scotland. You've got Mings, who's played a number of games for England. Well, obviously, he didn't play the weekend. You've got Carlos, who's played Champions League, Sevilla. You've got Kamara, a young lad that played for Marseille, top-level football, played for France alongside, some great players, etc., etc., etc. You've got all these players that have got, a lot of experience, and we've got to expect more from them in terms of leadership generally. And you look at that team sometimes and it just seems like it's really lacking that. Well, when you're crying out for a player that is the most vilified player in the team in terms of Mings, then I was thinking at the weekend, it's crazy. I would have been delighted if we just started with Mings and Courtney Halls and Keenan Davis. And it's mad I'm saying that because Courtney Halls isn't good enough technically as a footballer, and Davis isn't good enough, but for that game,
at least they put it about though and stick up for themselves.
I think Davis is good enough, but I get pilloried for that. But I think he is good enough. And like I say, the game, he's got his attributes that you need in this game at the moment. And but obviously he's made of glass, so it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Lads, the last point, and it might sound a bit cheesy or a bit glib, but he needs to get the win on Saturday, doesn't he?
Yeah.
By hook or by crook, he's got to get that win on Saturday.
Well, he does now. He's made things difficult. Bournemouth away looked like a decent start on paper. Followed up by Everton that have had a bad season last year, but they've just gone and done 35 million on a new midfielder today. Just signed Connor Cody yesterday, so they're going to be a bit more up for it. We certainly won't get away with the level of intensity that we showed on Saturday. Villa Park will not allow that, so I'd expect a much more in their face and get at them and a quicker performance. And I've got a feeling we'll win the game Saturday. I just think there's pressures on us, and we need to get a result there.
I am not confident. I said Everton would go down in the predictions part. Absolutely no chance Everton will go down now. Not with Tarkovsky and Cody as a centre half pairing. They've just bought this midfielder who looks good from what I've seen. If they get Idrissa Gueye back in,
why aren't we looking at him if he's available?
Who knows exactly? Yeah, who knows? To say that this is the second game of the season, and
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's a must-win game. I am worried how toxic it'll be if Everton score early, then get a second goal before half time, and we end up losing the game by a few. I'm worried about how toxic it'll be. I wonder if Gerrard would jack it in. You're going to want to deal with that, but
I don't think he'll jack it in. But do you think that this kind of? I still back Gerrard. I still think he's going to be a great manager. I think there's so much. I just don't see how the optimism of pre-season can just be undone with one game and one. You said it yourself. You said it yourself. The team that he put out against Bournemouth is capable of beating Bournemouth. The players that he left out were the ones who would get criticised anyway. So it's a little bit hypocritical from my point of view for Villa fans to start sort of complaining about Gerrard. I think where it becomes disappointing is we can't quite see I mean, I don't know where he's kind of said about a specific style of play that he has. I've not personally seen a specific interview where he's talked about a specific style of play. However, we can't yet see real identity, and he doesn't yet know what his best team is. And I think that's where the frustration is coming. But I do take your point. You know, if he does get a loss, and is this because of the kind of Smith, the way that I think Villa fans maybe feel the way that Smith was treated in terms of leaving, and then we haven't quite got that kind of connection with someone like a Steven Gerrard.
I don't think it's the connection. I'm still very much back in Steven Gerrard. I think he's got an aura, and I think he'll be a good manager. And the reality is, he's had a lot of time now, but not a huge amount of time. And we've had one game this season, and there needs to be a sense of perspective. But it's so worrying. We've just got to call out what we see in terms of how bad the performance was. I don't think it's that. I think it's more the fact that if you look at some of the comparisons that are made today with Gary Neville's record at Valencia and Steven Gerrard's at Aston Villa, and the comparisons are pretty close, aren't they? To say that, Gerrard was seen as Neville was seen as being a massive failure at Valencia. I mean, sometimes it just takes a bit of time. It does take a bit of time. You can't argue that there were moments last year we played some really good football and we've improved the playing squad. I don't think the playing squad is finished still. And I think the one thing this says is that actually, you know what? Like, we need to now, this might be good news. It might get a couple of signings over the line that we need, because we can't say now, if we're struggling in November, we can't say the warning signs weren't there. I think from pre-season a little bit, but then from the first game of the season, we can't say it.
George, can you put your finger on, you know, maybe why it's not really connecting at the moment or is it just a little bit of an overreaction from the Saturday's game?
Well, you could say it's an overreaction, but it was I'd say it was a majority of our fans that really had the ump on Saturday, and I'll say that's us three included. I just think we're just fed up of acting. We act like a big club in everything we do off the pitch. We sign the players, we spend the money, we get the managers, we get the coaches, we get the scouts, we get the youth, but we're still shit. And I'm just fed up of, like, we act big and achieve small all the time. Where you look down and you look at the Brightons and the Brentfords, the Crystal Palaces, they do everything we do on half the budget, and somehow they're better than us and they're above us. And I think we're just fed up with it, to be honest.
Brighton have just lost their two best players.
I know, and look at them Sunday. Brilliant, weren't they? Why
Yeah.
can't we have a bit of that? We take their managers off them and we still be shit.
Yeah.
And I'll just get the ump, mate.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a point there about maybe a lack of humility as well, and maybe like I say, a bit of a sense of entitlement. You know, that we can't get away from that. Won the European Cup in 1982, and we need to get away from that. Sure. We're a team that finished 14th last season. Even under the good season with Dean Smith, we finished 11th. We haven't finished in the top 10 for 2009 or something like that. It's ridiculous.
11 years.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to even be saying that we should be finished there. So I do think there's got to be a little bit more humility there from everyone, you know, from Villa supporters right through to the club.
We should have been humbled after 3 years in the Championship. I had numerous rows on Twitter about it, but they wouldn't have it. All I kept getting was Villa are massive. # Villa are massive. It's like, well, massive clubs don't spend 3 years in the Championship. You know, when teams like Norwich are up there, you know what I mean? You got to humble yourself.
But this is the
thing.
thing.
Earn your way back.
If you're gonna talk a big game, you know,
you've got to deliver. Yeah,
you've seen plenty of blokes get sparked out on a night out for giving it the big one, haven't you? Like, you know, if you're gonna talk a big game, and Villa as a club are saying these are our ambitions, these are our aspirations. 40th isn't good enough. We really want to push for Europe. We want to get European football. We want to attract players with European football experience. Well, you got to do something about it. And if it looks like you haven't got the personnel to do something about it, you got to do something about that. The other issue I think for us is it's the inconsistency. We have got some good players. I really like McGinn. I'm really fond of McGinn. I've loved McGinn since the Championship days. And he has moments when, I think you said this last pod, Rich, when he sticks his bum in, he goes on a spinning, you know, he goes on a marauding run and he does something brilliant. But it's, 5 games a season? I really like Matty Cash. I think Matty Cash winning our Player of the Year says more about how bad everyone else possibly was at times than how good he was. But he's still very hit and miss with his delivery. And I think he's cracking right back. I really like him. But is he consistent enough? Is Digne consistent enough? Are our centre halves consistent enough? Ramsey, I think he had a great breakthrough season. I like the way he runs with the ball. He's nowhere near consistent enough.
No.
And you've got these players that produce for 5 to 10 games a season. You ain't going to get anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just finish off with some comments because we've had some great comments coming in. I think we've got our most viewers that we've had since we started the channel off. So that is really, really pleasing to see. Please, guys, give the video a like. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. We're very close to 200. Kev, did you have a point you wanted to make?
I was going to say, it's weird, isn't it? Because we said we were going to do Sunday, Thursdays, and then we totally do the day in between Sunday and Thursday. And we get the most views we've had ever. So can everyone let us know? Is this a better night for you all?
Luck of the draw, innit?
Is there something is there something in this? Because we didn't let anyone know it was happening. So
yeah, we just maybe we're just getting more likes. The algorithm is working for us. And obviously, we've got George on today as well. So, always.
Yeah, I think that's probably got something to do with it, lads.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aaron is on the chat tonight. He is all up for an old school boss like Chris Wilder to fix us. I thought we had an old school boss. I thought this was the old school boss, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know. I think Chris Wilder's got some issues with Middlesbrough at the moment. So I think
it's early days, lads. We've got the arse, haven't we? It'll work itself out, I hope.
Absolutely. Ian, there will be far more space against Everton, so we should see far more of our quality. Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, we have to talk. The early goal does change things massively, and Bournemouth could just shut down that space. You'd think that with the potential players that Everton have got and the way that they do play football, you'd have thought that it would open up a little bit more space for us, and the impetus for us to attack in front of the home crowd should be there.
God forbid we go a goal down. God forbid we go a goal down. Oh, I'm worried about it right now. I'm thinking about it. And by the way, how bad are we at 12:30 kickoffs?
Oh God, we got a bad record at 12:30.
We'll save this for the preview show on Thursday. But yeah, let's try and be a little bit more positive. Kev.
Good recent record against Everton, boys.
Yeah, exactly, and we'll get the stats on that on Thursday as well. Ian, again, think the expectations were far too high against Bournemouth, so it was always going to sting if we lost. I think you touched on this, George. The record against promoted clubs for Villa isn't particularly good. But having said that, I was expecting a massive atmosphere from Bournemouth at the game, big atmosphere from the Villa fans at the game, and both sets of supporters were pretty lackluster, to be honest. It was just one of those lackluster games.
Nice day in the sunshine, didn't it?
Yeah, it just was. Yeah, there was a couple of songs.
We played like that as well.
Yeah, it was just but yeah, our record against the promoted teams isn't great, and I don't know. Maybe does it put it into a little bit of perspective that Liverpool didn't beat Fulham?
Well,
didn't play particularly well.
Played for the Champions League the other year and the league the other year as well, so probably feel a bit happier than us.
It hurt my pocket, that one, as I told you.
Oh, hang a minute, did we win the Queensland Trophy? What was it called?
We did.
Yeah, silverware. Put that with the Peace Cup and the next gen trophy as well. Get it up there.
Gaza joining us, liked your comment, George, about us still being shit, which is excellent. Martin likes your comment there about comparing nightclub fights to the Villa. Absolutely. Kev's analogies are always the best. James, in Steven Gerrard, I trust. I like the positivity. And Aaron seems to be triggered. Mark Farrington, thanks for joining us, mate. Consistency is the key word. We have no player puts together a string of 8 or 9 out of 10 games. We get one, then a poor game. It's like that we only play well for 45 minutes line. It happens too often. Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. We've got to sort this. We've got to sort this consistency issue out, haven't we, Kev?
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, I'm thinking now. I long for the days. Remember, Luke Young used to be 7 out of 10 every week. Luke Young, just every week.
Right back, left back. It didn't matter, did it?
Just it's just just something like that. Not going to take you probably to the Champions League, but it kills us because you can have a week with the players when they could beat Everton 5-0 and you wouldn't be surprised. we could lose 5-0. Maybe not, but you don't know what you're going to get with Villa. It's so unpredictable.
Absolutely. James has got a comment here, and I'll put it up in a second. But I know you guys were a little bit perturbed at the announcement, because every time the Villa Twitter goes now with a signing, we get we shouldn't do this, but we get all excited, and then it ends up being a signing for the women's team, and we'd like a little bit of warning. I mean, great signing that Rachel Daly is, obviously Euro champions winner. It's great that Villa are signing these players, but we want some warning. We want to know which team it's for, just so we can assign the correct celebration.
It's a cracking signing. She's a brilliant player, and it sounds really bad this, but because you're thinking probably your original love was the Villa men's team, then every time, I've said it before, Villa signed Champions League player, I'm thinking, who have we bought? Merlin, is it De Bruyne? One brilliant for the ladies team. I mean, fantastic. Good news for the club,
Yes.
But, yeah, it's a good signing. To be fair.
Yeah, they should do them like side by side. They should have announced Rachel Daly, and I don't know who else we're going to have. De Bruyne. Yeah, it'd been brilliant if we'd have done that double signing on the same day. But yeah, great signing, and we fantastic that we are attracting those type of players, which is fantastic.
Signing, just to this might be absolutely nothing, but I went to Villa Park tonight, and to be fair, I got a little bit of love back seeing it, picking up a season ticket, and I saw Johan Langer in the car park. Now, what's he doing at the club? Normally doesn't do his business, does he? Other than the training ground, I imagine. So, showing someone around, maybe, I don't know. I didn't see
probably Rachel Daly.
Well, do you know what?
Probably
was Rachel Daly. Yeah.
Right, lads, I think that does us. Great fun show. As I say, thank you for everyone watching. Please drop a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We need to check on. We need communication from our competition winner. So please reach out. I forgot Liam. You won the competition, Liam Crosby. I've tried to message you on Twitter. I know you subscribed on YouTube, so please get in touch with us, mate, so we can arrange that. We'll give you till next week on the next match review show. So please do comment, and we'll get the shirt out to you. We will be doing competitions very soon. I think we're going to do one at a next milestone if we can get to maybe once we get to 500 subscribers or something like that. So please spread the word. Please follow us on Twitter at Villa Park Pod, on Instagram at Villa Park Pod 2, and check out our Facebook page. But lads, for now, thank you so much for joining. And
Rich, can I just add one thing?
You can.
You come forward for the shirt, and you got embarrassed after the weekend.
Probably did.
Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. Remember, we all follow the Villa. Goodbye, everyone.